Hey everybody, welcome back to the Branch 458 podcast. I'm Casey Ritchie. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Marta's leadership project last week, or actually it was a couple weeks ago that now that I published that episode. But if you have not listened to it, go back and listen to that. It's on our YouTube page, Facebook, here on whatever you listen to, but it's got a video with it and it's definitely worth it to watch that. It was about the legislative struggles that the NALC went through to gain collective bargaining. So definitely go through that. I'm recording this on May 9th. It is the day before our food drive. And as many of you know, it is the single largest food drive that there is in one day. We do it nationwide. And I just wanted to thank all of you for everything that you've done, delivering the cards, delivering the bags, telling everybody about it. If you've done any media support for it, you've told your friends, your family, I definitely appreciate you. And then appreciate you for what you're going to do tomorrow, picking all of this food up. I know in years past we've had the white t-shirts. This year they are blue. So hopefully, I don't know about everybody else, but for me anyway, when we had the white t-shirts, I got really sunburned. So we'll see what happens this year with the blue. But having said that, everybody keep the heat in mind. Drink plenty of water. Get the electrolyte supplements if you need to. I use the ones, the Noon, Nuun. I buy those and just put them in my water. They work pretty good. But everybody stay cool tomorrow and throughout the summer. Keep heat in mind and take breaks. Find a tree, go into a business. Just stay cool out there. But Sunday, we have Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers listening. So this episode, I wanted to discuss a few different things. It's going to be kind of the same thing, I guess, safety related things, and then I'll talk about attendance. But something I wanted to discuss was the telematics in all the vehicles being used and um, how management is, I think, in my opinion, misusing it. It is a program that they put into all of the postal vehicles, and from my understanding, it was put in the vehicles so that they could track maintenance of the vehicles for VMF. So they could tell like when it needed oil changes, when it needed brakes, and all the things that VMF does to our vehicles. So management has found out a way to use it just as another tool in their arsenal. So what they're doing is they're looking up and there is a report of how long a percentage of your route that's been traversed either wearing the seatbelt or not wearing the seatbelt. And then what they're doing is they're going out and they're having these safety specialists or management will go out and they'll try to catch carriers in those same areas not wearing their seatbelt. So for that reason, I wanted to go over the handbooks, some of the handbooks that discuss seatbelts, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about your doors on your vehicles, specifically LLVs, 2 tons, when you can and cannot have those open. And the reason I want to talk about that is because it's right below where it talks about seatbelts. And um, I'll link the two together just in a minute, but I'll start with the M41. The M41 is the carrier's handbook, and it's the handbook that should be at every single carrier case. There's a black binder, or should be a black binder, right underneath your case ledge. You pull it out and you open it up, and there's the M41 in there. If you don't have an M41, get with your management, and hopefully they'll get you one. It's a requirement that one is at every case. So if you don't have one, definitely get one. But if you flip it open to chapter 812, it's safety practices, and just 3 provisions down, 812.3, it talks about seatbelts. And before I get into this, the station that I work at, one of these safety specialists stopped one of our carriers there and told them that they were getting a warning because they weren't wearing their shoulder belt while they were doing curbside delivery. And they told carrier that they had to have the shoulder belt and the lap belt on at all times, no matter what, when the vehicle was in motion. And they were lucky enough to get off with a warning, right? So we looked it up and we got it all straightened out. But I wanted to preface that before I read this provision, and maybe we'll dissect it a little bit here. So 812.3, seatbelts must be worn at all times the vehicle is in motion. So management stops right there. I mean, it's an entire paragraph, and they read the first sentence and they're done. Oh, seatbelts must be worn at all times the vehicle is in motion. Yep, let's go ahead and put everybody off the clock that's not wearing their shoulder belt, right? That's the correct thing to do. No, I don't think so. We got to keep reading the provision because it goes on to say, exception for long life vehicles. In instances when the shoulder belt prevents the driver from reaching to provide delivery or collection from curbside mailboxes, only the shoulder belt may be unfastened. The lap belt must remain fastened at all times the vehicle is in motion. So if you weren't allowed to take off your shoulder belt and continue doing your curbside delivery, why would the last sentence be in that provision? The last sentence is the lap belt must remain fastened at all times the vehicle is in motion. So it's telling you, if you read the entire paragraph together, that you can do your curbside delivery with your lap belt on only, because that's what it says. The lap belt must remain fastened at all times the vehicle is in motion. And then right above that, the exception for taking your shoulder belt off is whenever you can't reach the box for delivery or collection. So the delivery or the safety specialist that stopped the carrier at my station and told them that they were in the wrong and gave them a warning for not having their shoulder belt on was incorrect. Um, you can have your shoulder belt off while you're doing curbside delivery. So now right below that, in section 812.31, it talks about when you can and can't have your doors open, your sliding doors on LLVs and then on 2 tons, right? So it says, when traveling to and from the route, when moving between park and relay points, and when entering or crossing intersecting roadways, all external vehicle doors must be closed. When operating a vehicle while sliding driver's cab door on delivery routes and traveling in intervals of 500 feet or 1/10 of a mile or less at speeds not exceeding 15 miles an hour between delivery stops, the right-hand sliding cab door may be left open. So in other words, it's saying if you're traveling in speeds less than 15 miles an hour, you're not traveling more than 500 feet at a time, and you're not going through any intersections, you can have your door open. So the reason I bring up those two provisions is, in my opinion, and it does not specifically say that you must put your shoulder belt back on when you're doing curbside delivery traveling through intersections. But I would go ahead and just do it just to be safe. I would definitely want my shoulder belt on when I'm going through intersections just in case. I mean, I've seen some crazy videos where LOVs or city carriers have been struck and it doesn't look good. So I would definitely want my shoulder belt on. Um, but in my opinion, when you're going through intersections, when you're traveling in speeds above 15 miles an hour, or if you're traveling in intervals above 500 feet, your door needs to be closed. That's what I just read. That's a must. That's a requirement of us. But in my opinion, I would go ahead and put your shoulder belt back on. That's whenever you're no longer doing curbside delivery. So you're no longer, I can't reach the box. I can't collect from the box. Let's go ahead and put my shoulder belt back on. So that's the reason I brought up those two provisions. If you go to the EL 814, that's the Postal Employees Guide to Safety. And just for everybody that knows, there's all these handbooks and manuals all the handbooks and manuals that start with EL8, like the EL805, the EL809, the EL814, all the eights have to do with safety. The EL814, specifically the Postal Employee's Guide to Safety, if you go to chapter 2, it's on page 53. It talks about seatbelts. And it's almost exactly what the M41 says. It's just a little bit different wording. But it says safety belts. You must wear safety belts at all times the vehicle is in motion. When driving a long life vehicle, LLV, or the carrier route vehicle, CRV, you must wear the lap belt and shoulder belt whenever the vehicle is in motion. And then in big bold letters, it says exception. When shoulder belts prevent you from reaching to deliver or collect from curbside mailboxes, you may unfasten the shoulder belt, but never the lap belt. So even there, it's telling you that you can unfasten the shoulder belt, but not the lap belt. So lap belt you must have on at all times. The vehicle is in motion. There is not an exception for the lap belt. There is an exception for the shoulder belt. And then right below that, it talks about doors. All right, so that's just a few handbooks about seatbelts and safety. So the short story is what I'm kind of getting to in all of this is just put your seatbelt on. It takes half a second, maybe less, to put your seatbelt on. And I know that there's this program, and I do not agree with it. I think they're misusing it. I think that it's just another tool like DOAS, CORE, you name it. It's another tool for them to mismanage, misuse, abuse, and spy on carriers. I don't agree with it. That is not what I'm saying. But we should all be working safely. I definitely agree that we should all go home safe. I agree that we should all go home and be able to spend time with our families. That's the goal that we should all have. And I know it's cheesy, but we hear it all the time. The the most important delivery is you going home at the end of the day. And I believe that. So if we all do our part, if you're an OJI, make sure you're training the new people to wear seatbelts. This is a career. It's not a job to be thrown away. So these safety specialists that are out that are putting people off the clock for not wearing their seatbelts, I mean, we can fight it, and a lot of times we're successful. But at the end of the day, your safety is on you, and you have to wear your seatbelt. So the only thing that telematics is going to do is make better carriers out of all of us. So just wear your seatbelt, go home safe. If it takes another, throughout the rest of your day, your whole entire day, it adds up and takes you 5 extra minutes. It's 5 minutes that was worth it because you're going home safe. I've seen hundreds of videos with carriers getting into accidents where it is not your fault. You might be the world's best driver, but there's an idiot on the road that's going to run into you, and it could cause you some serious pain for the rest of your life. And hopefully, maybe if you're wearing your seatbelt, it might prevent that. So look out for one another and just wear your seatbelt. The other thing that I wanted to go over was attendance. And I'm getting this from the April edition of the Sooner Script, our newsletter that we put out. And I'll try to put it in the link for the podcast. But I just wanted to briefly go over a few things that some people don't always think about. The two main things are when you're supposed to provide medical documentation. There's two provisions, ELM 513-361, which talks about 3 days or less. And then there's the one right after that, ELM 513-362, which is over 3 days. So it is not 3 days. 3 days, I call out for 3 days, I need to bring in documentation. It is more than 3 days. It's over 3 days. So 4 days or more, you need to provide medical documentation. And I'll go ahead and read that one first. It's the 513-362, over 3 days. For employee absences that exceed 3 consecutive days, Employees are required to submit medical documentation or other acceptable evidence of incapacity for work or of need to care for a family member, and, if requested, substantiation of the family's relationship. So, what that's saying is if you call in sick or you're absent for three for 4 days or more, you must provide medical documentation. They don't have to ask for it, you just have to do it. You just have to bring it in. And it says acceptable evidence. So what's acceptable evidence? If you go to the doctor and they just give you that generic piece of paper, like when your kid needs a paper for going to the doctor, they're excused from school. They give you the excused from work paper. Those are usually not sufficient because all it says is Casey Ritchie was seen on May 9th, 2025, may return to work on 5/10. That's not, I guess that wouldn't fall in this example, but let's say that May 9th is my fourth day of being absent, so I went to the doctor. It does not say that I'm incapacitated and unable to perform my duties, and it must. It has to. Be careful. It does not have to have a diagnosis on it. So, uh, Casey Ritchie had COVID for 4 days. It does not need to say that. It just needs to say incapacitated and unable to perform your duties. You are the only one that can tell management what's going on with you medically. You're the only one that can do that. Your doctor can't do it. Your steward can't do it. Your coworkers can't do it. Um, so be careful with that. They do not need a diagnosis. And if they're asking for a diagnosis, I would tell them it's none of their business. So the other provision, 513.361, 3 days or less. And this is the one that's a little bit tricky. So I'll just go ahead and read it and then I'll talk about it. For employees' absences of 3 consecutive days or less, supervisors may accept the employee's statement explaining the absence. Medical documentation or other acceptable evidence of incapacity for work or need to care for a family member is required only when the employee is on restricted sick leave, see 513 through 39, or when the supervisor deems documentation desirable for the protection of the Postal Service interests. Substantiation of family relationship must be provided if requested. So, what that's saying is if it's 3 days or less, so 1, 2, or 3 days, your statement of why you were gone should be good enough. But let's run through a little bit of scenarios, right? I'm Casey Ritchie. I submitted a 3971 so that I could be off tonight. I'm gonna fly to Denver so that I can watch the Thunder beat the snot out of the Denver Nuggets again. And they tell me no because we have food drive tomorrow. We have full leave draw. They deny my request. So then I'm mad about it, and I tell all my friends and my coworkers and the clerks, and I go on break, and I'm telling everyone that I'm just going to call in anyway. Management hears about it, and now they have reason to believe I'm going to abuse my sick leave, and they can deem it desirable for the protection of the Postal Service's interest that I provide medical documentation for calling in. The other example is restricted sick leave. The difference between deemed desirable and restricted sick leave is restricted sick leave is you're on it until they take you off of it. So every single time you call in, you must provide medical documentation. And you'll know if you're on it. They will give you a paper, looks like discipline, that says you're on restricted sick leave, and you're on it until they take you off. Deems desirable is for 1 day and 1 day only. So, like my example of I'm going to call in because I want to go see the Thunder play. They have reason to believe that I'm abusing my sick leave and they've deemed it desirable for the protection of the Postal Service's interest. Now, if I call in every single payday and they they catch me in that, right? and I just flat out tell them I'm going to keep doing it. They have reason to believe that I'm abusing my sick leave and they have evidence of it. That's one of the guidelines to putting someone on restricted sick leave. They can just go ahead and notify me, hey, Casey, you're on restricted sick leave until further notice. Here you go. So every single time I call in, I got to bring medical documentation. And again, that medical documentation must say you're incapacitated and unable to perform your duties. It has to, or it's not going to be acceptable. So that's all that I had. If there's any questions, comments, concerns about anything I said, if you have suggestions for other episodes, please email 458podcast@gmail.com. You can write a comment on the Facebook page, or you can just call me if you have my number. So reach out, and I hope you enjoyed this. I do have a few more of the leadership projects that I'm going to publish. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And once again, thank you guys, everything you do for the food drive, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.